What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cash Flow Conversations. Today, I have an attorney with us, but don't worry, it's not that kind of attorney.
That's right.
Stephen Weisberg is with us today, who's a tax attorney. So if you've ever had to deal with the law, you know that that's not fun in the first place. But a lot of business owners have also had to deal with our favorite three-letter agency in the government, the IRS. And it can be quite scary if you don't have a lot of experience with it. I know when I got into tax trouble, 15 years ago, and it was not a fun experience to go through. You don't know if you're going to get in trouble, and you don't know what the penalties are going to be. IRS is actually pretty easy to work with. You know, they're pretty friendly. The state government, when I was in Michigan, the state government was much more difficult to deal with. But today, to answer all of our tax legal questions, we have special guest Stephen. Stephen, good to have you here, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. And hopefully I can provide your listeners with some information, help them know a little bit about myself and how I can help also, whether if they have clients that have tax issues or obviously themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you located?
I'm in Detroit, just outside of Detroit. So Southfield, Michigan here, right on the border.
Yeah, I went to school at Lawrence Tech.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. There you go.
Yeah, your office is right by my old stomping grounds. I told you there's a great little Chinese place right by your office. I don't know if it's still there.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
I don't know the name. It was behind the gas station on the corner of Telegraph
Oh, yeah. It's
and
there.
like 11 Mile or 12 Mile, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's right where I am. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, my favorite Chinese food. God bless college. That was when my coffee table in my apartment was a cardboard box with a sheet over it during grad school. Yeah,
Very nice.
gotta love college. But so now, how long have you been practicing law?
I'm practicing law about 17 years. I was in corporate bankruptcy previously for about 5 years, or 5 years or so, and then I've been doing tax debt defense and resolution for over a decade now.
Nice. And so you're the majority of your clients are business owners, right?
Yeah.
So run me through a typical client scenario.
So there are just some individuals who might have a pay already a regular paycheck, and maybe they took money out of a retirement account, and then didn't take taxes out. So there certainly are those clients, but I have a lot of self-employed individuals, independent contractors, and business owners. Those are like the bulk of my clients. Now, especially with self-employed people, as you know, you have to make quarterly payments to the IRS in terms of the taxes that you owe. Whereas if you get a pay stub, it comes out automatically, and it's annoying, like half your check seems to be gone, but it happens and you don't really have any control over it. Whereas, when you're an entrepreneur or just, self-employed, theoretically you can be like, I don't really want to make this quarter's payment to the IRS because, cash is a little bit low, whatever it may be. You say, I'll figure it out, April 15th. And then inevitably you don't figure it out by April 15th, and you're not be able to pay the IRS. So in terms of self-employed, like that's where I come in. You have to make certain decisions at that point. Some people just don't file the return at all. Some people file it and don't pay, which is better than not filing at all. Some people pay a little bit and file, which is even better, but you've got to decide what to do. And like I said, a lot of people just stick their head in the sand and just hope it'll go away. And then they start getting notices from the IRS about bank levies and wage garnishments and all of that good stuff. And then they're freaking out. So that's kind of where I come in, somewhere along that timeline of not paying the IRS and then getting those notices. And for me, obviously, and for the taxpayer as well, the earlier I get involved, the better.
And so you're the mediator. So you're the one that communicates with the IRS directly. The business owner then doesn't have to worry about it. They can still be concerned, but they don't have to spend time dealing with it, if I understand it correctly. And so some, I don't know if I want to say loopholes, but some processes to help, like, is it like a repayment plan that you can put people on? What are some of the solutions that you can try and find?
Yeah, and that's the whole deal is, you can call the IRS yourself, and it sounds like you may have, but like there is a long book called the Internal Revenue Manual, not the code, which is long and complicated in of itself.
Yeah.
But there's an Internal Revenue Manual that gives the processes and procedures to these agents who are working for the IRS. You have certain rights as a taxpayer. There's certain resolutions available to you based on your circumstance and based upon whether you qualify. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And the IRS is well aware of them when you generally as a taxpayer aren't. The IRS also has a ton of power. They're effectively the largest and most powerful collection agency on the planet for all intents and purposes. I mean, we don't have to go through the power that they have, but it's immense and it's unprecedented anywhere else. So yeah, I'm the mediator. I come in, I say, look, Matt, he's got whatever $100,000 worth of debt, tax debt. What are we going to do here? And the way that I do business is I do an investigation at first, because I don't know if you've heard on the radio, and other people's may have heard on the radio, like these large tax companies, they say we can resolve your debt for 10 cents on the dollar and it's all going to be wiped away like immediately.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So those people, they don't have any idea what your situation is or whether you qualify, but they're basically telling you we can do this. And then generally when you call them and you say, what can you do? They say, well we're going to do what's called an offer in compromise, and we're going to settle this for 10 cents on the dollar. And they're not going to have any idea. And they're going to say, hand over whatever it is, $10,000, $15,000, and we'll get it done. And they'll file it for you, and then it'll get denied. And they'll say, well, we tried. So you paid us and we tried to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not good. So the point being is, I do an investigation up front. I talk to the taxpayer. I find out from the IRS, how much is owed, what years are owed, whether returns need to be filed, penalties, interests, and then I discuss with the taxpayer what their income is, expenses, assets, all of that good stuff, to make sure I know exactly what's going on. And so it can be transparency between myself and the client. So we're like, here, this is what you're owed. Here's the resolutions that I think are available to you, and this is what I would advise you to do and how I would resolve your case. And then here's my fee for that. So we're all on the same page. And even just that investigation puts people at ease, because they're like, okay, I understand what's going on now. Like before, I had no clue.
Right.
Now I at least understand what's going on. And then we move forward with the resolution if that person wants to move forward. And so to get to your actual question, in terms of the resolutions, yeah, I start negotiating with the IRS resolutions. And I said, I base that on the type of tax, how much tax, interest, penalties, and then your current financials for yourself or your business. Some of those are payment plans, like an installment agreement. There's also what's called like a partial pay installment agreement. So there's different types of installment agreements. A partial pay is where you don't end up paying the entire amount of the tax debt ever. It gets written off. There are penalty abatement options. There are what I said, the offer in compromise, where you might be able to settle for a portion of what you owe, but most people don't qualify for that, and that's why it's kind of fraudulent, or not kind of, it is fraudulent that all these tax guys are saying they can do it. There's currently not collectible status. Yeah.
What are some of the nuances that allow people to pay less? Like if they could get 20 cents on the dollar, like why would the IRS actually approve something like that?
Right. So it's all based upon your finances.
So if you're making money, they're not going to let you do that.
Exactly. Now, if your tax debt is, I don't know, $2 million, and you're making money, and again, there's layers here, so it's like depends what you mean by making money. But if you're making decent, good money, over $100,000, you still might be eligible for an offer in compromise. If you owe $2 million. If you're making $1 million a year, then you're not going to be eligible. So it all depends on the circumstance. How much you owe and how much you make. But yes, if it's like you owe $100,000 and you're making $100,000 a year, then you're not going to be able to get into an offer in compromise. And that's why the whole thing's a scam in terms of when these tax firms say they can do it. Yeah, they can do it, and they've done it before, and I've done many of these before, but you have to qualify. Your financials have to match up to the program and the resolution.
And it's not a good thing, because technically, if you do qualify, you're not doing well in other areas of life. And it's kind of like IRS saying, oh, it's like when I've seen attorneys try to make grandma and grandpa look like they have no money, like literally get rid of all of their assets so they qualify for Medicaid.
Right.
To me, it's like, that is a horrible, there's so many ripple effects there that they're not considering when they go down that route.
Right.
Here's a couple questions for you. So I do a program every Wednesday, or every Tuesday. We do what's called Tax Free Tuesday. So I do a live webinar, and we get people from all over the country listening in on how to avoid unnecessary taxation. And it's not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance. And your income tax is due when you earn income. And then what you do with your money after you pay your taxes will determine how many taxes you'll be liable for the rest of your life.
Sure.
taxation on Medicare, Social Security, income, capital gains, all of those things. I occasionally get a right wing nut job on the phone, and they talk about this idea of a sovereign citizen, and they go, taxes are illegal anyway. I've never paid taxes. To which I say, good luck, and usually hang up the phone pretty quickly because it's a massive waste of time.
As do I.
Yes. What is that? What is a sovereign citizen? Is that real? Like, you can see YouTube videos of people freaking out on like police officers and saying like, I don't have an ID, I don't need to tell you my name, I don't pay taxes, all that. What is that?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't know, but whatever it is, it doesn't work for
Okay.
practical or for legal purposes. It never works. People have tried it. I think like Wesley Snipes tried it at some point.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he went to jail for
Went to
that.
jail. So it doesn't work. So I never got into the ins and the outs of it because it doesn't work no matter what. Whatever they think it is, it doesn't work. So yeah, I do the same thing. I basically say like, okay, well, this we're not a good fit for each other because this is not what.
Okay, I've always wondered this, and it's like one of those rabbit holes that you don't want to even go down because what's the result? We already know the result. It's not real.
Right. Right.
They
Exactly.
make interesting points, then they'll quote parts of the Constitution, and it's like, okay, interesting, but I'm not going to jail for you.
Right.
I got
And again,
kids.
for practical and in reality, it doesn't work. So it's interesting, I guess, but it doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one more question for you. Trump came in with a Thor's sledgehammer when he started in January. He's talking about getting rid of the IRS.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Do you think that there's like that could actually happen?
No, he's not going to get rid of the IRS. I mean, there may be changes. I mean, certainly, they're looking at firing half the staff, but they're right. Well, yeah, you think that, but at the same time, you're still going to owe tax. People are still going to owe taxes, and the letters that say we're going to levy your bank account, and even the levying of your bank account, that's all automated. So that's all still going to go out. So it's going to make it that much harder for you even to get in touch with anyone to say, hey, I want to resolve the issue because there's going to be no people there.
So
So
you'll be on, which brings more value then to your offering to clients, and then your
yeah,
whole time is just going to go up.
right, exactly. So it's not actually a good thing, and I know why your thumbs up, and I tend to agree with you. But it's actually not going to work out better for people. It's probably going to be worse.
Jeez.
He's not going to get rid of it. He might find other ways to bring income in, and maybe more of taxes will be paid through some other way, whether it's this external
Tariffs.
revenue service with tariffs, and who knows with the tariffs what exactly his end game is there. It's not going to be gone. I mean, it's certainly not going to be gone in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't see it ever being gone, but it may be different, and I don't know exactly what different looks like, but it may be different.
Yeah. When he started talking about the external revenue service, I thought it was a good idea. But now it's turned into this like Twitter war where they're going back and forth on. I saw yesterday, he's like, well, I'm going to raise your tariffs to 200%. It's like, okay, that came off like a 4-year-old, dude.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think there's certainly merit to some of the tariff ideas, although I'm generally against tariffs just from an economy aspect, and I think goods are cheaper. But there's other aspects to think about. There's slave labor in China. There's tariffs around the world where we're kind of getting the short end of the stick. So I think there's some validity to making some changes with tariffs, but the way it's gone so far, I don't know what his end game is. I can't figure it out because, like you said, he's just like, oh, another 200% here. Oh, this one I'm going to hold off for for 30 days. So I can't figure out what the end game is, and it's making me a little.
Yeah, I nobody knows. It's a game of chess, and hopefully he knows what he's talking about. I read today that Doge sent a letter out to 9,000 U.S. aid employees, and they all got fired, and there's only 600 employees left. It's like starting over in the government, man. And I don't see, look, at the end of the day, the government has to make money. I joke in business, there's two ways to make more money. You either sell more product or you don't spend as much on your overhead. And the government doesn't have a product to sell. They don't have a widget. And they have done a horrible job of reducing their spending. Even Trump's first term. I'm a Trump fan, I'll just throw it out there. But his first term, spending went through the roof. It's almost like taxes have to go up at some point. And when they say, here's my biggest complaint too, man. When they say tax the rich, they don't tax the rich. They tax your ability to get rich.
Right, all of that, and I agree with all of that. I think Doge is doing a good job in terms of. I think we'll ultimately have done a good job. I think I would rather have it be a little more surgical. And right now they're kind of using like the Silicon Valley way of just get rid of everything and we'll kind of figure it out after. I think it's great in terms of like we want to reduce, like I said, spending with the
Indeed.
government. I mean, we have to, we absolutely have to. But we'll see how this all goes. And like you said, his first term, I think was a lot different than this term is going to be. I mean, a lot different. He kind of had to play by more of the rules, and we'll see how it goes. But you know, it makes sense. We just got to see. I think you made a great point earlier where you said, it's a game of chess, and hopefully he knows what he's doing, and that's really it because he has some good ideas. But let's just hope he knows his end game and how to get there.
Because none of us know. I mean, when he started the whole thing, some of the reaction around the world was a positive thing. Forget the company moving from Mexico now to Indiana. I think it was Honda or something. They're building more
Yeah.
stuff here. They're helping the manufacturing in America. I hope it continues. But back to taxation and business owners and clients. So when you work with clientele and they're freaking out, when does jail time become a real thing? When they ignore it? Because the way that I understand it, look, as long as you acknowledge this debt, the IRS will work with you. Is that kind of a fair assumption?
Yeah, and so these are good questions because these are questions that kind of your everyday taxpayer has. 95% of the time, you're not going to jail. Like even if you owe money to the IRS, let's say you owe $100,000, even if you ignore it, I mean, they may start levying your bank account, garnishing wages, but let's say they can't even find your bank account or whatever it may be. You're not going to jail about it. Jail is really reserved for what they would deem criminal activities, which is like tax evasion, where you're actively trying to defraud the government, or especially I've mentioned previously, or I think we talked off air about payroll taxes. As business owners, if you take the payroll taxes that out of your employees' pay stubs
Yeah.
or paychecks and start using it to pay vendors, that's considered stealing, which I think it is stealing. You're taking your employees' money and using it to pay your vendors. So, those are situations where, jail may be something that's going to happen
Do you
there.
take clients like that do that?
Yeah, I have a ton of, I mean, that's one of my niches, expertise, because I have so many clients that do that. You'd be surprised. And I don't know if they just get scared or think they're going to get away with it. I think it's more like they feel like I have to pay my vendors. My business isn't going to run without it. And just kind of like, I'll just deal with the rest of this later. I'm going to pay my vendors and deal with it. And then, as I said before, like, then you aren't able to deal with it. And then you get stuck.
Dude, I'm stressed out thinking about that, doing that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
I agree. It's wild. There's just a lot of people out there who just, if they kind of pretend it's not happening, that they're okay with it.
Do they change once you work with them? Like, are they getting better? Do they acknowledge it? Or are they, I mean, I would imagine you have some sort of vested interest for them to shape up or not work with them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, for me to even resolve their underlying imbalances, they have to be in compliance. So that's part of the deal. Is like the IRS won't work with you unless you're in compliance, meaning you're filing your taxes appropriately and timely, and also like you're making your deposits with the employee payroll taxes timely and the way you're supposed to be doing it. So they can't just be like, forget it, I'll just pay this back tax or try to get into a resolution for the back tax. You've got to be in compliance. So yeah, I mean, they all, from my experience, kind of realize they did something wrong and feel bad about it and feel like kind of terrible about it, but they were just kind of sticking their head in the sand and pretending, nothing would happen. And now they're totally scared because they don't know what to do and they're going to change their ways moving forward. And again, they have to in order for me to resolve the case.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. And you've been doing this for like 10 years now. Huh?
Yeah. Over 10 years. Yep.
Interesting, man. What else do we need to know about how to, I mean, it's almost funny. It's like, the title of this podcast could be like, learn how to never use me.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay your taxes on time. And so you don't need to use me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, you do a lot of stuff in terms of, tax advisory and planning in terms of like, pay as little tax as possible. So like that, I'm like on the other side of the coin. I'm like when you already owe the taxes and now you're in trouble. But the one thing I will say is, and the only easier thing to do is just, especially if you're self-employed, just make it automatic, your quarterly payments, make sure that if you bring money in, a third of it or whatever the number is goes into another bank account that's going to sit there until the quarter. And then right on the quarter, the money's going to go straight to the IRS. Don't leave it up to yourself to kind of think about it and manually send it to the IRS. Because then if you do it the way I'm talking about, automated, it's like almost like a paycheck, like where it just comes out automatically and you don't have to think about it. You don't want to think about it because the more you think about it, the more you're going to get bad ideas.
Bad ideas, dude. And then your business is just going to go downhill from there. It's a
Exactly.
slippery slope. Do you see most people coming out of this? Like when they have a tax issue, do most people, they're able to resolve it and get back to normal life?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I can resolve everyone's tax issue. It depends on there's kind of a great result, there's a okay result, whatever it may be. But I'm able to resolve everyone's issues where they're in some sort of program where they can, pay back the IRS in some sort of sliding scale, or if nothing else, over a period of time. And, as long as they're willing to make the appropriate adjustments to their lifestyle, which is hard to do, and make those payments, they'll be okay. And when the IRS is breathing down your neck, people are scared. And so they generally do what they're supposed to do. Now, later on, that doesn't mean that they'll kind of, do something bad again. They kind of forget how scary it was. But yeah, I can always get someone into a program or a resolution where they're going to get back to the normal.
And the idea is to avoid bankruptcy. Is that correct? I mean,
Well,
your taxes are still due even when you're bankrupt, right?
right. Well, so yeah, and well, I would say I don't know that that's the answer. Sometimes bankruptcy makes more sense. It depends. Things like payroll taxes, which I was talking about, like those can't be discharged in bankruptcy. In bankruptcy,
Yeah, that's fraud.
are taxes that can be discharged. You have to file timely. I wish I knew off the top of my head what the bankruptcy standards are, but I think it's about 3 years. Like any taxes that you filed in the last 3 years, those can't be discharged. But if you filed your taxes timely that were over 3 years old, you can get them discharged. So it might make sense to file for bankruptcy. It just depends. There's a lot of circumstances that go into it. But I have a lot of good relationships with bankruptcy attorneys where, like you said, not all the taxes can be discharged. So I may do a resolution for the taxes ahead of time, and then they'll file for bankruptcy, or maybe they'll file for bankruptcy, and then the bankruptcy attorney will come to me and say, "Hey, we couldn't discharge X amount of taxes. We need you to step in and resolve them now."
Got it. Interesting, man. Yeah, bankruptcy is not fun either. I've had
No.
family that's gone through that.
Yeah.
What the takeaway here really is that every business owner, no matter if you have 100 employees or if you're self-employed and you're a S corp LLC by yourself, sales rep, you have a business partner in the IRS. Everybody does, and you have better treat them like a good business partner because they're the kind of business partner that doesn't go away. They're not loud about it, but they're not going to go away.
And they're much more powerful than your other business partners. Like they don't even need to sue you. You owe it, they can come after you.
Yeah, exactly. There's no questions there. Well, this is good, man. I appreciate the time sitting down. Hey, have you ever been up on Pine Lake?
I have, yeah, of course.
You know the marina out there?
Yeah.
I lived at that marina for 4 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a garage right off of Orchard Lake Road, and so I'd pull my car in. I had a garage. My apartment was probably the size of this small office, and I paid $500 a month, included TV, all my lights, all the bills, everything. And I woke up every day to watch the sunrise over.
That's awesome.
It was incredible.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that right now. I think I'm going to go find that apartment. I don't know where my family's going to be.
Yeah, who cares, I used to work at the marina in college, and then one summer I went up to say hi to my old boss, and he's like, upstairs is for rent. I'm like, You're kidding me. He said, yeah. I said, I'll take it. He goes, you want to see it? I'm like, no, I already know I would love it. I thought it was going to be like $1,000. It was $500 a month.
Yeah.
This is, 2006. That was 20 years ago, but that was a wonderful time in my life. That was fun.
That's awesome.
Well, cool, man. Well, we're going to put some links to your contact info in the description down below, so people can get a hold of you if they have any tax questions. Are you licensed in other states outside of Michigan?
I'm only licensed in Michigan, but for tax resolution, I can represent nationwide, anyone in any state.
Really?
As long as when you're an attorney, as long as you're a member of the state bar, with one state bar, you can represent nationwide. So I'm a member here in Michigan, but I have clients all over the country.
Beautiful. Well, that'll help because our audience is nationwide. So we'll put a link down there below, any social media links that you might have. But if they want to get in touch with you, we'll make sure to have a calendar link down there as well.
All right, great. That'd be awesome.
Stephen, thanks so much for being here, man. Any final words, any final thoughts you want to throw out to everybody?
Don't get into tax debt, or otherwise, if you do, I'll be here. So let me know.
As much as I'd like to meet you, I don't want to meet you necessarily.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or you don't want to meet me, that's for sure.
That's right. All right, brother. Thank you so much. Everybody listening, click the links below. Get in touch with Stephen if you need some tax help.